Hi, I'm Andrew Armstrong and welcome to the back office teardown lab. Although you can see we're not in the lab, we're in the garage next to the lab, and that's because there is no room to move in there, and that's very distressing because there's so many cool projects I can even see now for us to tear down. However, I have attempted to try to alleviate that by putting a table here so that we can start piling up some of the things that are in there and make some space. And one of the things that has arrived today, though, that I thought would be a bit interesting and we want to get into before we do any of that tidying up, is this Bambu X1 series combo printer. And this is set to be one of the best printers out there, apparently. So I think we just need to get the old knife and check it out. So you might recall this is the area where I had my lathes and other woodworking equipment, and then a metalworking lathe, and now I've managed to clear that out for this. So hopefully this will become the 3D printing area for now. And looking inside the box, we can see it's nicely wrapped here. It does look a little bit more fancy than the 3D printers we're used to. So just a little quick recap. We have here, little Bob is still here, and that's our Anycubic Cossel that we, to be honest, I still use all of the time. Incredibly reliable, great printer. And then going through to the back office, of course, we have the Anycubic Carbon that's currently being used to store future back office projects, including this one chip challenge. So I need to figure out how to get it out of the box. So, okay. I'm not entirely convinced that I can lift this at this height. I might actually put it on the floor and then lift it up onto the table. I do like this wrapping, it's quite nifty, isn't it? And it doesn't take up any room when you want to chuck it away. I do think this is the way to go. I can't believe recently I bought something that actually still was wrapped with polystyrene, and it was really all torn up in the box. When you open the box, all those little white beads just went everywhere. We've got it out of the box, and just a quick overview of what you get. This thing in the box, and some pretty measly looking reels of filament. I'm pretty sure I've got some somewhere though. Got the old quick start guide there, might give a little flick through that. You can see they've used this tape, and it's a really weird tape. It's like so particular. You get it in fridges, you get it in things like that where it's stopping plastic stuff jostling around, but I'd love to know what it is called because it's kind of handy, it's easy to remove. I have to admit I'm getting quite excited now. You can start to see its little features, like this Bambu Lab handle, very cute. A little bit of a ribbon cable and some tape here. I think that could be an interconnect for something. We're still going to have to go in deep here because clearly it's got a load of stuff loaded into here that we're going to have to take out and pop on the top. I spent a while trying to get in there and then only discovered that actually it has a lid on the top. Silly me. Let's get these things out. I'm guessing anything polystyrene is meant to come out, so I will pop that out. So one of the reasons this automatic material system is not coming out is because it's actually screwed in. So I'm going to go have a look through its toolkit to see if I can get hold of the Allen head screwdriver for that. And inside there's another, at least one down there I can see. And possibly another one in there. Look. So they took a lot more care packing the contents of this box than I did than unpacking it, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to go through it a little bit at a time. But you can see they've really nicely made some customized cardboard things to hold it all together. So you've got your long Allen key, which is great. We're going to need that. Or I don't know, do you call it a hex key? And I don't know if you can see that. It's actually a ball end on it, which is really nice. You can use them at different angles. There's a nozzle cleaner, which I'm going to leave in there because it's liable to get lost right now. Might set up some magnets. And I did see yet another Allen key. So you're set for those. Let's see what's in here. This feels suspiciously like a screen of sorts. And indeed it is. So we'll figure out how we fit that in a moment. And I do appreciate that I am not following any instructions, so this is not the way to do it really if you've got one at home. But I guess if I can put it together without the instructions, apart from figuring out where the red screws work, then we've got a good chance of anybody being able to do this. These look like two interconnects which are power wires. What else do you get wrapped up? Oh, a hot end, and it's tiny. So you have a teeny tiny hot end and a little squirt of thermal grease there to put it all together. And some fittings for your hot end, like it says there. And I did notice this sort of loose. It probably wasn't packed loose, it's just when I shook it all out it just fell. I don't really know what that is. It's a plug for something, we'll figure that out. And then the last wrapped up item, apart from some sort of instruction book, feels suspiciously like a tube of Pritt stick. Yes, indeed. So it's a tube of Pritt stick that says Bambu Labs on it. So if you're using PETG, that will help you out to keep it adhered. And then there's a spool holder there to be fitted. And just extruder, some various parts for the extruder. So hopefully it will be pretty self-explanatory. I think I'm just going to get fitting and we'll work out how far we get before we hit roadblock. Just going to get to work on these screws. I think that might be enough just to get this out, and then we'll undo the other screws later. And there we go. Let's peel off that plastic. Nice. I'm just going to tackle these internal screws. Now, I had to wait quite a while for this because all of the people who backed the Kickstarter got theirs first. I'll be curious to know though, if you were a Kickstarter backer, was it wrapped in the same way, or is it something that they've changed and evolved? While I'm in here, I'm noticing all sorts of interesting things among these fittings I have to undo. And one of them is just here, there's a little camera. So I don't know if there's a webcam that will show you your work as it's being printed, because that's always handy. I often use Octoprint on my existing printers to give me that function. There's a really nice internal fan. And of course, this thing is totally encased. It's encased in metal, has these nice glass doors. But there's a warning sticker on it that says laser. And I do recall somebody telling me that this has a LiDAR in it for automatically adjusting itself. And that's a game changer. As soon as printers have the ability to calibrate themselves. I mean, we thought we were lucked out with automatic bed leveling, but this thing's apparently the whole next level. Out that comes. Not going to lie, some of those were a little bit tricky. I mean, if I had issues with my limbs, I feel that maybe I would have had a little bit of trouble, but not too bad. Just a couple more of these and then we can see what the next step is. Finally, I remove the last screw from here. Just a few interesting things while I take off this little bit of plastic. The extruder head is completely encased, which is so cute. I don't know what this does. Look, it's got stuff on it. There does appear to be a hole that goes out of the back here with some little flappy doodlers. I think this is actually some sort of ejection port for when it changes the filament, it has to get rid of the old filament somewhere. These appear to be some sort of carbon or carbonized metal. Very interesting. Down there's your laser warning. Here is that webcam I was telling you about, and of course that nice internal fan. And as you can see, it is a Core XY printer, so we're expecting some good speed out of this thing. There's an interesting warning in here suggesting though that you have to use the supplied glue stick before your first print, otherwise it might adhere too well to the bed, and we've seen that before in printers. So for example, when you see here, you can see that surface does get slightly damaged because it kind of etches itself in there. There's your edge connector. So the screen is going to go in one way and latch, and I believe it's going to be this way. It's got a nice spring on it too. Let's be a bit careful. This probably doesn't want to come out too far, which doesn't. In fact, there are instructions on the back. Press the terminal down and insert the cable to connect, and there's some disconnection. Remove the screen by pressing the lock button and sliding the screen from the direction arrow. I mean, this is a proper full-on professional build, isn't it? I mean, this is real stuff here. It's not like the Meccano kits we're used to using. Although I think they could have been a bit more generous on this ribbon. Come on now. I imagine this is something that's going to be essential to the functioning of this. So you definitely don't want to knacker it. So that's in now. The ribbon is in. You can't see it, but trust me. So I'm going to push this up and then slide it there. Click to place. Then of course, whip that off. I have to admit I'm feeling quite lucky now because this isn't a door. This is a whole separate pane. So that could have easily gone south if I had just accidentally now flipped it and almost flipped it onto the bench. So yeah, be careful of that. On the back we have a feed for the spool into the machine, and I'm guessing our fancy pants multi-filament doodad goes straight in here. Now there was a spool holder as part of this kit. My guess would be it bolts somewhere around here. We'll worry about that later. And those two cables that we found earlier here to clip in here to here. So looking inside we can see another spare bit of feed tube. Oh, by the way, it has the same nice knob on it. And it says here, remove the plastic bag of the desiccant before use. So we will go ahead and use that. I do apologise for the camera being a bit crazy. I'm holding it by hand, and we've all got used to holding mobile phones by hand, not actual cameras, but we will do that. So I'm guessing what it means is actually remove the plastic bag and then put it back in. And the role of this is to keep the filament nice and dry. And then once you shut the lid, of course, there is a rubber seal around here. Should be keep it good. You do have 4 feeder units in there, and I'm guessing you just pop your things in. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a last quick look around everything here, and then make sure it seems clear, and I'll just turn it on. I think I'm going to follow instructions on the screen at some point, and that point is almost now. Just a quick one though, you do have a power switch on the back, which I actually have turned on, but I'm off at the wall. But there is a standby type switch here, and whatever that is, a twirly. And inside there seems to be a little box which seems to contain a carbon filter, so it probably tries to stop stinking out your room if you're doing ABS. Nice. I can't get out these bits of packing material until the bed is raised, so I presume that's part of its configuration process. However, as the label did say, we have to apply some glue to this build plate, and have a look. It is a magnetic one which lets you poing off your work when you're ready. That actually could be a bit of an interesting one for me. I've never had a flexible one like that. I've tended to go with glass now. And there's your glue. So I'm just going to do a quick, very light thing. I don't like this. There seems to be something a bit lame about it, but, you know, okay. I mean, apart from using like PETG and some of the exotic filaments, getting them to stick was always a chore. I've not had to use this kind of glue stick technology for a long time. I did have a bit of trouble trying to bind the app that it gets you to download, so I skipped that for now, and it's gone straight into this calibration phase. It says, the printer needs to calibrate for the current environment. Please ensure the hotbed is unlocked before starting calibration. So I'm not entirely sure how you're supposed to check its locked status. I think it just means that you undid those 2 screws, which we have done. So I'm going to hit next. Calibration may take several minutes. It's doing something. Oh, I can see in here on the head it actually says Bambu micro lidar in there. I know you won't be able to see it right now. And when that plate was coming up, it was doing a weird little adjustment. You might notice that jiggling. I think it was reacting to the lidar, and you can hear it making all sorts of sound. It's vibrating the plate. I think it's measuring the harmonics. Calibration is complete. So you can see here Bambu Lab X1 series, and it says here 20 meters per second square core XY, 4x4 colours, 7 micrometers LiDAR resolution, dual ABL dissimilar redundancy, whatever that means. And this is a really nice, sharp, high-res screen. Here you can see the different temperatures. I'm guessing this one's bed, this one's cabinet, and this one's maybe the hot end. Your Wi-Fi status. I don't know what this is. Oh, there's an internal light. That turns the light on and off. Hooray! Nice. I guess that's for the webcam that's in there. So here are your regular sort of controls for moving the head around, maybe the gantry up and down. In fact, let's try. Yeah, you can see it's just moving it down in 10mm steps, although you can't quite see it with the angle you're using. Trust me, you can see in the bottom of the screen it's doing that. Part cooling, auxiliary cooling. Oh, yeah. Let's turn those off. Very nice, very cute little graphics. And here are, look, some parts here. You've got your benchy, you've got some spool parts, Bambu Lab badge, a bed scraper. Oh, there's a whole load of things on here. And I'm guessing maybe if it can connect to the internet, you might be able to download things to it. You have here making a scraper with a razor blade. That's kind of cool. Phone holder, screw gauge, yes please, and a vase. So there's plenty to do there. I think, of course, we want to do a benchy, but just before we do, controller, tool head, micro LiDAR, AP, don't know. I think we just got to go and try to print something. I presume it's done that selfless. Now it does say SD card. Where's the SD card hole? I don't remember seeing one. Is it on the side here? Yeah, oh, there is a micro SD card right there. I'm guessing you don't really use that too much because it's Wi-Fi enabled. You're probably going to download to it. But let's try a benchy. So it says PLA. It's going to do bed leveling and flow calibration. I don't know what Creative Tools is. Just as some sort of indicator on them. I'm going to hit print now. Let's see what it says. There's no spool in it at all. I want to see if it sort of warns me. In fact, you can see here, heat bed preheating, cleaning nozzle tip, auto bed leveling. So there's a lot there, and it hasn't even checked the spool yet. The filament ran out. Please load new filament in temperature axis and click resume icon to resume the print job. What's temperature axis? Okay, snap it off there. So we've got a clean edge, and then I'm going to pop that in the top. That thing at the back actually looks like a nozzle cleaner. Well, it says it's 20%, but I've yet to see any filament come out. Doing a lot of dancing around though. Oh, it's doing some sort of calibration because it's moving the nozzle, look. Okay, yeah, I'm going to guess it's going to be here. Woohoo! So it must be on auto bed leveling now. Holy moly. So it's been a week with the Bambu. I felt I should give it a proper going over before making any comments on it. And so far, so good. It has some absolutely amazing prints inside. So I'll show you some of these things. Like, for example, it has a print like this, which is a phone stand, and all of the hinges and gadgetry are all print in place. So everybody loves print in place things. I've been printing benchies galore. There's a puzzle in here that is so confusing I've not been able to actually assemble it, so you're welcome to try that kind of thing if you like. Part of the kit was actually the parts to make this quite awesome scraper, and if you do make this, be aware it is very bitey, and you may want to just use a regular scraper because the chances of you damaging the bed with this are actually quite high. Certainly when you're using it, I can't quite remember, I think just make sure you use it this way with the little bulge on the top. Some of the other prints that come with it as well are a vase type print of a female torso, and the level of detail is absolutely startling on this. It's amazing, and when you see it you kind of think, oh, I wish you could print everything using vase mode because it's so smooth, so unbelievable. It's almost matching a resin print in that respect. And there's also a very neat dinosaur model. And again, it's a bit like a puzzle because there's no instructions on it, so you just have to figure out how to put it together. But it's a very cute thing and something that the kids love. So it just gives you a wide range of projects built in to just show you how, things that you can do, things that your kids might like to do. And of course my kids have really started to ask me to make stuff for them. And that leads me on though to some things that aren't always perfect. So I did have a little bit of an issue with the slicer. You can see here the model is a little bit funky. You've got a little bit of it's tried to print something, but it's got the support wrong, basically, and that's a little bit disappointing. So it still does have issues in the same way any other printer has issues. Of course, you still have to take care to make sure when you're operating your slicer that the model is printable and you've got it oriented the right way and the support is turned on in the way that you expect. There are interesting features in the slicer. So you can see here I don't have any full colour prints. You can paint objects in the slicer itself to give you that full colour print. I haven't had time to really explore it fully. What I have had time though to experiment with within the slicer is to use the different colours from the feed. So when you're defining your shapes, you can define several shapes on that print bed and you can set entire shapes to use particular filaments. So it's one of those things on whether or not you might be using it for colour or as in like trying to make a model. Like you're making a Batman doll and you want the blue and the red and the pink and all those things. Or you literally making something functional for engineering work and I want a red thing, a blue thing and a white thing. There's a sort of subtle difference between the two. So where you have an entire shape that's fully solid or you have a single object that has multiple colours. Either way you can do that, but if you have a single shape with multiple colours, you have to go in there and start using those painting tools and say these are the faces I want to be that colour. A little bit more involved, but you can save your projects of course and then just reprint them. And what you will find, the app is pretty good and the software is pretty good on here. Once you have those successfully printed models, if you look in the file menu, you will actually see them there. And that also then leads me again to other useful features. So if you're used to using Octoprint and you like the time-lapse feature, you have that built in and you can get it from your phone. The app on the phone is pretty good. However, I think the PC software definitely has the edge. Of course, the slicer's built into the PC software too, but I find the PC software on the monitoring side is a little bit more responsive. But either way, it's very good. It is pretty much plug and play, to be fair to the printer. All I do really is take the print out, clean the bed, because there are these little bits of calibration print, and I think I've seen it once print over the calibration print with no ill effect. So it's such a thin little wisp of a print. It is happy to go over those. And you have the option of having the light on and off inside. Of course, I would leave the light on if you're hoping to have a decent time lapse. However, it does capture quite a lot of light through the glass here, so it does work with reasonably low light exposures on that little webcam. But of course, it's a fixed webcam from a fixed corner. So if you really want to get that full webcam, time-lapse view, make sure you orient your object facing that webcam and being quite near it. If you have it on the far side of the bed, of course, it'll just be this little blip in the distance. Now, in terms of fire and forget, absolutely great. I've made some big production prints where I've actually filled the bed and it's going to take 8 hours or something and it just sits there grinding away. Absolutely fine. It's equally just as reliable as any of the other 3D printers have. For example, I had the Anycubic Chiron running a few days ago, and that was a full 48-hour print. And I trust that to do a full 48-hour print. I would equally trust this to do it, and I would think this would probably be a little bit more consistent because it has that nice enclosure to keep the temperature, and it does monitor the temperature, and it has a means to make sure that temperature is consistent within there. I did have a small issue with the feeder, I will admit. I did have to contact support. I actually fixed it before they got back to me fully, but they did send me a manual on how this works and those leads in the back. And I did have to dismantle one of the sensors at the back, and I actually did touch it with a soldering iron. It may have been my fault, I'm not sure. When I was inserting a connector, I may have damaged that, but it was an easy fix. But what I found was really interesting from the suppliers is that they did provide you with a manual that was quite technical. So like all other 3D printers, you still have a level that you can get in under the plastics. You know, it's still a machine that you can operate and tweak and fiddle with wires and things like that. And their literature reflected that. So it wasn't super high level like, you know, you get a Hewlett-Packard printer and it just says if the error light's flashing then reset, and that's it. If reset doesn't work, you're done. This has, you know, you have the means here to take off some panels and actually start looking at those circuit boards. Speed is good. I haven't done any metrics to measure this. My gut feeling is, depending on the type of print, I think it's a Core XY. It definitely is a Core XY, there's no think about it. But I think that Core XY excels in certain things and is on par with others. So for example, when you're just doing normal XY printing, you're moving around doing your things, great. I think the Core XY maybe has a better benefit where it's moving the head quickly between things. So where you've got your like Anycubic Cossel with the little 3 arms, they're quite quick to be able to move between things. I think it's the best of both worlds really. So but depending on the type of print, so if you've got a print maybe where you've got like 3 or 4 things on the bed and it has to transition between them, it'll work quite well on that. You'll see that speed boost compared to a regular one. But whereas you're printing something like a big block, I don't know if you're really going to get that much of a benefit. I did print this thing, which is a little waste paper bin, because it does do little poos. I don't think you can quite see that on camera. If we have a look in there, it's a little bit dark, but you will see, if I tip them out, it does these little poos, basically, because it has to eject filament when it changes colour. And while I was printing this, I actually adjusted the speed. It has like ludicrous mode and different speeds on the dial. So I said, let's turn it up. And I did get a bit of tearing here. So what I would advise is do not adjust the speed whilst it's printing. I mean, for this it's fine. It's just a thin little bin. It's going to sit around the back. By the way, if you're going to print a chute for the poops, there's one which has a little slant in it and the bin comes around the corner. That would be my next print. But yeah, don't adjust the print quality on the fly unless maybe you're going slower. I've heard from other people, other users of this, it can print quite well in those fast speeds. But yeah, make sure it's set to the fast speed from the beginning. Then you'll get, maybe the print quality might be deteriorated slightly, but you'll have that through the entirety of the object and not notice any transition between it. There is another weird thing that I haven't actually fathomed what they're for. It does these things called print towers. So if you are using, I think it's time-lapse, or one of the modes requires you to be using print towers for some reason. I think a print tower is something that it builds next to your object to clean the nozzles. There's something like that. Don't take that as gospel. But yeah, so you end up with these interesting shapes. I mean, it probably uses up an extra bit of filament, but I think like most users of this printer are getting it for a liability. So you're not really worried about wasting a little bit of extra filament if it means after 10 hours, 20 hours, 4 days, whatever it is, that your object comes out and it's just 100% perfect. Because maybe you're using this to show a client a prototype or a model, something like that. Or really just value your time and you just want it to work. You want a push and play, appliance type 3D printer. I think that's what you're going to get. So I hope that's been interesting to you. Bambu Labs X1 Carbon. I forgot what it was called there. So good. Yeah, I've ordered another one. I think they're perfect for low scale production and prototyping. Please leave your comments down below if you want to ask me any questions on it, and I shall try to answer. If you want any more involved questions, please consider joining the Discord, where we do have at least one other user who really knows this printer inside out. And as ever, thank you so much for watching.